You're listening to the Living Mandala podcast. My name is Ara. And today's a really exciting day because it's the start of a new series, a new podcast series that I'm calling Living Mandala of the Planets, the Living Mandala of the Planet. So, previous sessions have been with the chakras, and then most recently with the colors, Living Mandala of the Colors. This is Living Mandala of the Planets. And joining me for this new series, it's going to be, I don't know how many episodes, 11, 12, 13, we'll find out. Episodes is Rachel Ruth Tate, an astrologer, a yogini, and most recently, I guess I'll let you talk about yourself and your new exciting venture in Waco. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Ara. It's absolutely a pleasure and an honor to be here. Yes, I am a Hellenistic astrologer. We share the same teacher.
We do.
Kopic. Shout out to him, the Astrology Podcast. If you would like to dive deeper into the things that we are expressing here, that's an amazing place. But I've been an astrologer for about a decade now, about 2 years professionally, as in like my main full-time. I am now transitioning into another full-time job because why not have more? If less is more, how much more would more be? However, the astrology is my joy, my passion, my raison d'etre. It's what I think about all day, every day, and it informs a lot of the things that I do and helps me make sense of my lived experience.
And what's your website for anybody interested in your services?
If you'd like to find me on anything that is online by way of social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or my URL, it's Rachel Ruth Tate. So at Rachel Ruth Tate or rachelruthtate.com.
Perfect. Very good. Well, we share a love of astrology. I've been way more loosey-goosey with my astrology for, I don't even know how long. Always sort of been an underlying interest, but more serious formal study the last couple of years. So I am a baby astrologer. And I'm so excited that you're here because I really respect your practice and the way you think about things and articulate. You're such a good articulator of astrological concepts. And we do share the same teacher, Austin Kopic. So again, I'm very new in my studies with Austin, but you've done a lot more extensive study. And so the Living Mandala of the Planets, this is going to be a series that rolls out over actually the next several months. These are going to come out every other week. And we're just going to go through the planets, starting with the luminaries, the sun and the moon. We're going to work our way all the way through the planets, including Pluto. Is it a planet? We'll find out. And then we'll have a closing episode. So I looked at the calendar, and this podcast series is going to run through August of 2024. Isn't that wild to think about that here we are on a chilly February day, and this is going to roll out every other week throughout, a good chunk of 2024, which is really exciting. So each episode is going to kind of go through some basic science and nomenclature and mythology of each planet. And then, of course, Rachel's going to take us on a deep dive into that planet or luminary as it kind of shows up in natal charts and in astrological charts in general, some rulership. Then we'll get into a series of correspondences. If you are a listener of this podcast, you know about the Chakras of the House series with Dr. Barnard. There is, we mentioned, very light touch, a chakra correspondence when we did that series. So now it's like, it's kind of a reversal. We're doing the deep dive on the planet with just a light hit on the chakra. We'll get into the metal correspondence, the day of the week. One of my passions is runes. I really love casting runes and working with runes. I'm very new at runes, maybe, a year and a half in, or no, 2.5 years in on my rune study. That's amazing to me. And so, I'm a newbie, Newtown on runes. Maybe a future series might be somebody who's more of an expert at runes than me, but I know enough to be dangerous, that's for sure. We'll get into the tarot card. And then I mentioned that Rachel is also a yogini. She's a yoga teacher. And so she's going to take us into a pose or a series that would be, a way to embody a particular planet, work with a particular planet. We're going to talk a little bit about the orbit vibration. Each of these, from the view of Earth, has a very different pattern in the sky. And, I've got some assumptions that I've made, certainly based on, what that orbital vibration, how it sort of manifests on Earth and into our selves as humans. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then finally, we'll end each episode with some sort of a meditation or healing modality as it relates, or an opportunity really, as it relates back to each of these celestial bodies, a way that you can work directly with the energy of that planet. And see for yourself. I like to say, don't believe anything, see for yourself, experience it for yourself. So that's going to be kind of the flow of each episode. Of course, my motivation for doing this podcast series is, first and foremost, I cannot enunciate this enough, it is for fun. This is for fun for me. And likewise, I feel like it's very fun for the guests that also do this podcast with me. So thank you for having fun with me, Rachel.
So much joy. Thank you.
But secondarily, I've got a longer term project that I am working on. My background is, chemistry. That's my undergraduate degree. My master's degree is kind of more metaphysical subjects, spiritual topics. And then, my life study has been, working with a midwife, start for 6 or 7 years, starting multiple nonprofits, lots and lots of fundraising. A lot of folks know me by my other name, Sarah Jane. That's my birth name. But Aura is the name that I work with all of my creative projects, my writing projects, my art projects. That's kind of the name that I do all of those activities under, and that's where this podcast lives, and that's also where this writing project that I'm working on lives. It's a big writing project, and this podcast is one of the places where I air out ideas and bring in people who know more than me. Very important to help uncover kind of a nuanced understanding of the various subjects. So. Rachel, anything else to add, about yourself, about your motivation for being here, and anything else to share? I'd love to hear it.
A lot of your listeners specifically might know me as Rachel Fox. That is my maiden name. And as the former owner and studio director of the Refuge Meditation, where a lot of us gathered for some sacred courses.
Self-included.
Yeah. And it was one of the most lovely and transformative times in my life that happened from about 2018 to March 15th of 2020, when the whole world closed down. And that time at the Refuge definitely was the beginning of my professional astrological practice, taking it from something that was more direct knowledge, more of a personal study and hobby, and then took it sort of a few octaves up, brought it into the studio space, into events, into programming. And truly, astrology for me, I want to emphasize, the reason to listen to these podcasts is that it can open up new dimensions of understanding that give you context for your lived experience. Because we keep the solar day, we keep the lunar month, we keep the solar year. There is more time that can be kept, and more rhythms that can be observed that allow us to make sense of our own cycles and not necessarily predict life, but to know what to expect. That's part of why we use natal astrology. But natal astrology is far from the only astrological discipline. Mundane astrology tells you about the cosmic weather. So it's not personal. Today just might be a rough day, or might be a glorious day. And you can take that information and jump into other disciplines like electional astrology, where if you have something really fundamental that's popping up, you can find an ideal time, like say a marriage, right, or starting a business. Maybe set yourself up for success by choosing one of those lovely weather days, as opposed to at times when you know something really intense is going to happen.
That's right.
And then there's horary astrology. We can answer questions that we have just by studying the nature of the time that the question arose. So many different ways to use this, but we're just really bringing in the cycles of things outside of ourselves, outside of this planet, putting it more into the context of the ecosystem that we're a part of. So I love your physical and metaphysical dimensions. Chemistry is a perfect place to work with these planetary archetypes and with the planets themselves, because everything that y'all know about the planets from science class, that can be used completely as is with your astrological practice. It is very efficacious to understand that information. The physical and the metaphysical, there is a union, they are one.
That's right. As above, so below, as within, so without. I'll also mention that you have a wonderful daily, you call it the Astrology Roadshow. It's a quick, maybe 5-10 minutes tops. I consume it on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram every day, unfortunately, but the days that I am on Instagram, I definitely catch it. And it's just a nice way to like tune in to the astro weather, and it might just offer another perspective into, why a day might feel, that feeling word, different than another day. It might just be a little bit more nuance. It can add some nuance. Of course, with astrology, I always encourage folks to hold it very lightly, hold it as one of the moving parts, one of the pieces of information that you can use to, look at your life, your situation, maybe what's happening a little bit differently, but always remembering that you are at the center of your choice-making machinery. You are always at the center of your life. You always, maintain that space of being able to choose love, to choose joy, to choose peace, to choose to move forward in a direction or choose to move in another direction. You always are at the center of your choice-making machinery. So hold it lightly, use it for information that it can offer. I have found, being a chemist and being a metaphysicist, that it's freakishly accurate sometimes in a way that is pretty uncanny. So I would just offer that as, the opportunity to also take it somewhat seriously. This isn't, a hocus pocus art. This is a course of study that has been examined for millennia, literally millennia, by basically every culture on the planet. I don't know, there might be something there as humble students in the year 2024.
And we have seen throughout history that astronomy and astrology were one until very, very recently in civilization and history. And we were able to circumnavigate the globe through the use of the stars, and that navigation used to be acknowledged as both external and internal. So the effectiveness of the navigational utility of astronomy is the same astrologically. It's just more of an art, and it's the art side of the science. So all of those people that we know, Galileo, Copernicus, these were all astronomers that have made these scientific discoveries which are acknowledged, but they are astrologers as well. And their work, I think, you cannot extricate one from the other.
Right. So we're going to take a journey through the sun, the moon, the planets. We had a little bit of debate on whether or not we were going to get into asteroids and nodes and things like that. So we're going to not go that direction, but just know that those themes may also come up. The nodes are integral to eclipses, which certainly deal with the sun and the moon. If you're in North America, you probably have heard of it. There's a big eclipse coming up on April the 8th. Certainly here in Dallas, where we are doing the recording. So, some of those themes may come up, but they are not the focus. The focus is going to be the planetary bodies themselves, the celestial bodies, and the big celestial clock in the sky. So, without any further fanfare, we're going to kick it off in 2 weeks' time with an entire episode about the sun. You're listening to the Living Mandala podcast.